take care of this, it's a good way to get the word out kind of a comfortable way, so I appreciate that. Also, I want to thank the staff and help me pull this stuff together. We asked a lot this year, and they came through. And Larry crunched a ton of numbers, and if I changed my mind and say, what if we did this, and we go back and flip-flop. So Larry didn't kill me, which is to his credit, at least in my mind. And you can talk to him about that later. If he can take care of some of your problems, if you just go ahead and step up. And of course, Debbie coordinated getting everything set up here and making sure we're going to be comfortable and have plenty of refreshments and be ready to go. So a lot of folks helped get us where we are. Teleconferencing in, Bob. That's yeah. Okay. Can everybody see the screens? It looks pretty good. I toyed with turning off some lights, but I think that hopefully shows up. All right. I'm not a big fan of The Office. I don't know, what's his character's name? Anybody know? Dwight, I think. Anyway, this is a quote from Dwight from The Office. I never smiled if I could help it. Showing one's teeth is a submission signal in primates. When someone smiles at me, all I see is a chimp begging for his life. So what I'm trying to do, but before the end of this presentation, is see if I can turn you into smiling chimps that are begging for your life. That's my objective somewhere through the line. So on the converse, if I ain't got smiling, probably it's gone the other way. But yeah, I like to think that we can have a little bit of fun through this, even though it's a fairly dry set of topics we're dealing with. If you'll note the book you've got in front of you, 308 wonderful action-packed pages of budget. And it's there's a lot of information in here. We set out last year to achieve the GFOA award, and we did that in terms of the presentation, the content of what's there, in terms of saying what we need to so people can understand what's going on. But you notice on the cover it says budget and work plan. And this year, more than anything, we're talking about what we're going to get done. A lot about what we're going to accomplish as opposed to what we're going to spend. We didn't organize the city to spend money. We set the city up, our forefathers did. In order to get things done, we need it for our community, and that's what we're focused today. So, work plan is going to be a big part of what we're going to talk about. Now, I love this quote. I'm a collector of quotes, and Mr. Heinlein's a sci-fi writer, but never try to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig. Now, unfortunately, in this case, it's even worse than that. I'm the pig, and I think that I've taught myself to sing. So the presentation today is going to depart from what I've done for literally decades. We're going to talk a lot more about stuff that I don't normally do. So again, we'll see how well it goes, but it is a departure from what you've seen in the past and what I've done in the past. Bob, lead paragraph. No taxes, no fee increases, no rate increases, no increased burden on the citizens anywhere, not a penny anywhere in the entire document. This plan is balanced on existing rates and revenue growth from natural growth in the community. That hopefully will make things a lot easier to deal with as we're going through. But I think that that's probably the headline, the lead paragraph in the story about this budget, about the coming year, and about the presentation. Last year, you all recall the mesmerizing session we had over at the library. We laid out a vision. We talked about where we're going to go. And that vision was built from three things. The community profile that a lot of us worked on community-wide, trying to set goals, identify problems, identify strengths. The second component was the 3-STAR program. That's the state program for economic development, making sure your community is ready for growth and established and ready to be a good economic development partner. And then finally, 2 years ago, the council retreat, where we sat down for a weekend and talked about what some of our major problems were and what we're going to do about it. That was the backbone that we used to develop the vision for the next year and the coming year. Out of those things, we developed these 5 statements of the community's vision. I'm sure that every one of you recites these at night before you go to bed, just like you say them like the Pledge of Allegiance and the Lord's Prayer. But for those of us who don't do that, you can boil it down to a few simple things. Economic development, financial management, infrastructure, quality of life, and and positive interaction with the public. That's the framework we're trying to build on to make the organization do the things we want to do. Those are our priorities, and that's what we're focusing our energy on, trying to make it a better place to live. There will be a quiz, by the way, if you can see if you recognize these in the, after the session. By the way, I do have handouts with all these slides, so that before you leave, you'll be able to take this home and rehearse and recite those until you have them committed to memory. So last year, we set goals. Every department set up a set of goals, said what they're going to do with the money that you gave them. Now, when you look through the budget book, we report how we did. We want you to measure how well we're doing based on what we said we're going to do. If we don't accomplish what we set out, why? We're just trying to establish expectations. We're going to tell people what we're going to do, we're going to do it, and we're going to let them know to get it done. Another set of things that we pivotal in this presentation are these two efforts that we made this year. We surveyed citizens. What do people on the street think about our community? Scientific survey, random sample, and we'll talk a lot about what people think about our services, the quality of service, and a number of other things about the community. The second thing is the benchmarking project we did with the UT MTAS. And again, that'll be a pivotal part of what we're going to talk about here in terms of how are we performing compared to our neighbors. So, two things. What our citizens think and how we stack up to the competition or to our neighbors. And that will be a big, big part of what we're talking about. To my mind, this is how we get to where we want to be. We want to be the community that others wish they could be. We want to be effective, we want to be efficient, we want to be well received among our citizens, and we want the neighbors to come by and say, how in the heck did they do that? We want to be the standard that others measure themselves by. And we're going to work toward that. We're going to be the community that they wish they could be. Okay, let's start with the other. Financial position. Fiscal year 2009. Fortunately, this is before I got here, and I didn't bother to examine the audit very closely before I interviewed. But 2 months into my tenure, you all may recall that I sat down and we had a little heart-to-heart talk about money, where we are, where we were going. This chart was one of those ugly graphs that we had in that presentation. This is cash through the year of fiscal year 2009, starting in July, going through June, our fiscal year. A couple of really important things to look at. First off, we had less than $1 million when we started the year, and we ran into the red by the end of the year. We used more money during the year than we had. Also, you can see in July and August, property taxes come in. We get a big injection of cash, and that's what we live on. Again, November, December, the second phase of property taxes come in. And then from there on, through the year, we tail off in terms of what we've got in terms of cash to work with. Our ongoing routine revenues don't cover our ongoing routine expenses. That's the nature of the way things are structured. Also, at the end of the year in May, we've got big bond payments that we've got to have money for. So this chart shows a couple of things that I want you to be aware of. First off, we were losing money hand over fist. And this shape of the curve, while not so severe, is still important because that shape is still there. We're front-loaded on revenue, back-loaded on expenses. You've got to have some cash reserves or you can't pay your bills at the end of the year. You've got to be aware that at the front of the year or come the end of the year, you're going to be surprised and in trouble. Looking at it a little bit different way, this is audit years from 2004 through 2011 and the cash balance on hand. You can see we had a peak in 06, but by 2009, ladies and gentlemen, our bank account was dry. We got down to so small you can barely see the bar. We've been able to turn it around and put some cash back in the bank. But don't get too excited when we have cash in the bank, because remember the shape of that curve. We've got to have cash in the bank to make it through the year. You've got to have some savings to fall back on because we know there are going to be lean months. Look at the same thing in terms of our savings or our fund balance. This chart, the blue parts of the chart are reserved. That's money that's designated for special purpose, bonds or obligations for contracts that we haven't yet paid out. The yellow part is that unreserved fund balance or just general savings we have for emergencies. We'll look at 2007, 8, and 9. There's no yellow. We ran through our savings evaporated with the downturn of the economy, with a crash of sales tax revenue. We have turned it around. We are getting stronger, and we can see we're beginning to get some of that back. But again, it's important to have that cushion to make it through those lean periods of the year. So how do we get it done? It wasn't easy. You all remember, it was painful. It was difficult, but we cut positions, a lot of positions. We furloughed people. We didn't work a full week. When I came to town, we had cut, 3 hours a week for folks to, just to make the bank account balance. We put off buying equipment because you can't pay your bills. You're certainly not going to replace equipment. We put off capital projects. You don't pave the streets if you can't make payroll. We cut programs, and we all remember we had to raise fees. It was not easy. It was an important, vital part of the plan. We watched our resources closely, and frankly, now we're coming out, partly because of the economy finally catching a little bit of traction and stepping up. But you got to remember, there was a lot of pain and sweat to get done what we got done. So we are turning the corner, but it didn't come easy. And you can't take things for granted. You can't say just because it's starting to look a little bit better now, it's time for party and let's go back and let's get crazy. We've got to continue to be mindful of what we're doing, make sure we make prudent decisions, and don't go too crazy, but do the right thing. But lest we forget, about a year ago, we thought we were about to claw out of the hole, and Berkline called up and said, by the way, we're locking the gates. The loss of 500 jobs rippled through our local economy, and it's an emotional economic blow. One event like that completely out of our control can still make us stumble. But the good news is, look at the past year. Since July, we've had these announcements from existing industries that they're going to hire more people and invest money in our community. Big investment in the automotive industry. But these announcements nearly replace all the jobs that we lost with Berkline. This is a great year by anybody's measure. We don't talk about it, we don't talk about it enough. But last year, in terms of development, in terms of growth, a fantastic year. You won't see these kinds of numbers in communities anywhere else across the state. This is outstanding progress toward where we want to be. And of course, we've got this game changer on the horizon. We're going to hear here in a few weeks about where they stand, and they are having some problems with raising money, but I'm still excited about the prospect of freedom coming to town and truly changing the way that our local economy works, bringing that injection of jobs and capital to the community. So, all in all, we do look up. We've been through a rocky patch. We need to be sure we make good decisions moving forward. So, we're clearly growing, we're getting stronger, we're going to be okay if we do things the right way. Okay. I went to grad school at UT, and almost every class I walked into the first week, they talked about this guy Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. What this guy talked about was what motivates people. If you start at the bottom of the pyramid, you work your way up. If you don't have something to eat on that bottom rung, there's not much else going to motivate you. So your basic needs, food, water, warmth, protection from the weather, those are the kind of things you need. The theory says that once you get those things, you want to move up. So once you become, you get a good meal, you start to worry about things like shelter, safety from predators, safety from other people trying to take your food away from you. So safety becomes the motivator. And you're less worried, you take for granted a little bit what you had before. To be motivated, safety is what goes on. As you move up the pyramid, social needs, once you kind of get a roof over your head and food in your belly, you start to worry about having some social interaction with neighbors and those around you. Taking care of those needs, you move up to doing things because it makes you feel good. Once you finally take care of the core needs, the kind of things that motivate you are things that feel good. And finally, self-actualization is being all you can be. The thing is that when you're on the bottom rungs of the pyramid, you're scrapping to survive. You're fighting to live. But as you move up and take care of those things, you start to focus on other things and other needs to keep you motivated. There's a couple of things we'll be talking about this in the presentation about motivating community, motivating people. So I threw this slide in there. Also, Mama likes it when I tell her that I used stuff with my college education. She paid a lot of money. So I throw this in every now and then so she feels good about it. Now, we've got difficult decisions ahead, maybe even more difficult than what we've done in the past. When you're fighting to live, and you're talking about survival, you may not like what you have to do, but you do it. It's not like debate. You're going to eat something. But when you get past that, and you start talking about, I've got a little bit to eat, I've got a roof over my head, the options from there are a little broader. It's not as clear cut. It's not a, I have to get through tomorrow. It's what I want to do. And there's more debate among the folks, among the community, among council, about what's the right thing to do. So I think the decisions now may be even more difficult than the ones we've been making because it's not as obvious what the choices are. Okay, general fund revenue, where's it coming from? There's a couple of great things I want you to know about this particular pie chart. If you remember from last year, the federal and state slice of pie was about 10 or 11%. It's up because we're showing about $3 million worth of road projects funded by state funds. We'll talk about that more later on, but that's the reason that slice of the pie is up. One-time project-driven money. But if you look at property tax and sales tax, they have been roughly equal at about a third of the time. It's good news for us. The sales tax are growing and becoming a bigger part of the pie. That's our growth revenue. We changed our property tax rate and sales tax rate because we were banking on that growth. And it's starting to take off. It's starting to help us. It's starting to see that the things are picking up. So that's a good sign in terms of our overall sources of funds. But remember, property taxes are still only less than a third of what pays for the bills. Sales tax, when you look at it, this chart is a little deceiving because you got to remember a little history. In 2009 is when we changed the rate. That's the reason it went up even though we were in a recession. 2010 is when the county changed their rate and our effective rate went down. So the decline from 9 to 10 is a combination of declining economy and changing the rate downward. But if you look at 10, 11, 12, and 13, you can see a steady, strong pattern of growth. Local folks around us are coming back to town. They're spending more money. We're starting to feel that sense of growth in our overall sales tax picture, which again is our biggest source of revenue. So we are getting stronger. We are better able to stand on our own 2 feet. Same picture follows through with the state. The state shares sales tax statewide based on population. So this is a picture of growth across the state. And you can see, again, 10, 11, 12, they've been growing, probably growing at a greater rate than we are. And we're just being conservative in projecting 2013, not knowing what the legislature is going to do in terms of exemptions on various things and having a little bit of cushion in our overall budget. But again, there's clearly growth and health in the economy. All right, so what's it take to get things done we need to accomplish for the city? You need a plan, you need a vision. We, as a leadership, need to tell folks what we're going to accomplish. Without some sense of direction, our organization doesn't know what the priorities are and what we're trying to get done. So you got to stay out roadmap for where the community is going. Secondly, you gotta have people. You don't get things done without a staff that's qualified, has the skills, and is motivated to accomplish things. We can talk all day, without the folks out there in the field to get it done, nothing will happen. And we need equipment and infrastructure. You can have the best carpenter in the world, but if he doesn't have a hammer or a saw, he's not going to get much done. You've got to give him the tools it takes to be effective and to be efficient. So this is the thing we want to talk about for the remainder of the presentation in terms of where we're putting our money to accomplish our vision in terms of our people and our tools and our basic infrastructure. We're going to talk a lot about how people see we're doing. What did the survey, what did the benchmark study say? What do they suggest that we work on first? Looking at that, where do we put our resources, where do we put our emphasis, and what's it going to take to get better? We are all trying to do better next year than we did this year, and even better the following year. All right, this is a page from the survey. And it's not a particularly pretty page. Color coding, if you look down here, green means that we are better than the average of the communities that participate in the survey. We got nothing green. Now, we're comparing ourselves to communities that are opting into this program. They're already pretty confident they're doing a good job, or they wouldn't be trying to get in. But we're not better in any particular area than the average for the survey. We clearly want to be there. Yellow is, we're similar to what the survey says. So in those areas that are yellow, we're kind of average compared to those communities. And this reddish color is below average. And there's way too much red on this chart for what I see. The other thing about this chart from the survey, they did some analysis of what people put emphasis on and how they responded. And you see these keys. They said those are key drivers. You make improvements in these key driver areas, you build up your overall perception of efficiency and your reception from the community by focusing on those areas. So those are areas we're going to try and look at closely. Now, you all know that Pat Summit built a basketball program, a pretty dang good basketball program. And she did it by comparing herself to the best. She would play anybody, anywhere to build her team and build the sport. As far as I'm concerned, we've got to compare ourselves to the best. That's got to be the benchmark. To make ourselves the kind of place we want to be, we've got to compare to those folks that are doing a good job. That's the reason that this is important to me, and I think it's one of the things that helps us look at where we need to focus our resources. Okay. This is a particularly disturbing chart from the survey. In terms of our citizens, what do they think about the overall direction our community is taking? 4% excellent, 27% good. 31% think we're good or excellent. That's unacceptable. That can't be where the community needs to be. All through this discussion of the survey, we're going to talk about folks that think we're good or excellent. The scale is good, excellent, fair, and poor. So 31% think the direction we're going is okay. That means we've got to do something. We've got to have better communication. We've got to improve the way we're going. Our population doesn't think our direction we're going is the right one, and we've got to affect that. Public trust. Another set of questions in the survey talked about our overall image, citizen involvement, and value of services paid. Image is a little better than half. Majority of people think that we're doing excellent, we're good in terms of our overall image. But okay, we're talking a lot about grades. 55% is a failing grade. You don't pass on to the next course until you complete this course. You're pulling in a 55. That's not quite